And all these wars, they're just pretexts for other reasons. I had a chat with my Afghani taxi driver yesterday. And I said, is there any connection between 9/11 and the Taliban? He said, absolutely none. That is a complete fiction. And the Taliban was just an invention of the CIA. Yes?
And it's kind of linked to that question, actually. It's sort of hangs in my mind that I was reading one of your books, I think it was the third one, and it said about potential for becoming martial law. The oppression of people in Britain as times get particularly bad. A lot of people in England will say that's been happening in the
course.
But to me, from reading that, it seemed like it's going to get, an awful lot worse.
Well, look at your city here. I mean, it's the most watched city, or the country is the most watched. You're all recorded on every movement you make, and they say also even these security guards that are in yellow, that they work for private, they'll all be called into action. And when push comes to shove, there'll be martial law. But as long as you behave yourselves, there won't be. If you just keep suppressed like this and don't rock the boat, then you won't have martial law. But it'll get to the point where the suffering of the people is going to reach a point where they don't care, and all hell breaks loose. And that's when you're going to have martial law. The what? Well, you can imagine that it would be in their interest to spread information like this. Just say, naughty girl, you just behave yourself. Otherwise you're going to get... But the force is there. That's it. The force is there where it can be called into action. How effective it is, it will be, I don't know. Because those forces are people like you and me. They're made up of men and women that have to go home to their parents or to their children and everything, and they've had to slaughtering their own. And I think that's probably similar to what happened in the French Revolution, when the army just couldn't shoot their own people. You get to the point where there's a point where they can't be pushed that far. And I think you saw some of it in Egypt and Libya, but we'll see what happens after. Yes.
That's another question. In the first book, you just wrote about buying goods and getting the gold and silver. Obviously, the prices are going up and up and up. Do you still advise to continue purchasing these kind of commodities?
Well, if you had followed my advice in the beginning, you would have bought gold at $260 and not $2,000. But that's the way things are. Let's say the masters, Saint Germain in particular, who's the higher up of the New Age, and he's watching over this. He says nothing will survive except gold and silver in terms of the exchange. So even if you buy it today at these quote higher prices, unquote, they're not. They're really reasonable, actually. Say today your spot price is about $1,600. I expect this thing to rise to $10,000 per ounce when all the stuff breaks loose. So I think you're still in cheap territory. Although I'm sure your salaries haven't gone up as high as but what you do instead of gold, invest in silver. It's very cheap, $30 an ounce. U.S. Those are the two traditional ones that have lasted over the the rise and falls of different civilizations. And I think you can count on those things for being pretty solid. But other things you should do also is take survival methods. Stock food, canned goods, and stuff like that that will last. They may be worth it way to go one of these days. When these vibrations go up at the end of the year, it's also going to cause dislocations in the distribution system because it's going to knock the futures markets out of whack. And a lot of these trucking companies and everything are dependent on gasoline futures and oil futures and stuff like that. That whole stuff is going to go kaput. And the distribution of goods is going to be really affected. And you should take some measures, at least 6 months to a year of stuff that will sustain you in case something like this happens. And I would suspect that in a big city like London, that's where it's going to happen, in the big cities. Because you can't exactly plant enough to eat on your balcony. But, or move out of the city, go into, to more country areas. Yes?
I thought you said that London won't be around in the next 5 years.
Well, you'll be maybe floating on rafts and all. Well, in the meantime, what are you going to eat if this thing happens next year?
So you actually believe that London won't be around in the next 5 years?
Well, I don't know whether you know the Mahatma letters. Do you know the Mahatma letters? These were the letters written by the masters Kutumi and Moria. They predicted then that France and England would be gone. It's just a little blurb in there, and I think that would probably happen if one of those big glaciers in the north, in Greenland, for example, slips into the ocean, then glug glug. You've been amply warned.
But there's no point buying silver.
Well, unless you buy gold. But if you set yourself up on a hill or up on a high plateau, then you may need that silver. But I think not only silver, as I said, foodstuffs and stuff like that that'll sustain you for a little while.
But also, you were saying that basically you need to get off that sort of lower mentality. That lower mentality is also a big thing, the mentality.
Yes, but the higher mentality will open your eyes to what you need to do to physically survive this. And it'll point the way to, moving up to higher ground or something like that. It's just a matter of moving up to a higher ground. Not in a building, though. You could get above 200 feet, but you'd be stuck. But get up into the highlands somewhere, or a place where you have a plot of land that you can at least grow some stuff if you needed to.
How do we know how high we are above sea level?
Oh, just look it up on Google. You say London, elevation. They'll say 7 feet.
Surely doing all this takes everybody to fear.
No, it's called preparation, not fear. You're enlightened enough to know that this is not going to be the end of the world, but the waves come your way. You got to get out of the way. It's just common sense and preparation.
No, you're right, because I watched that tsunami in Japan, people who just said, yeah, whatever. They've been warned to get up on the high ground, and they ignored it.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who got swept up. So we can't not.
Think of Noah, the old story of Noah. He was just going about his business, building his ark, and doing what he was told to do. And people were looking at it, and they could ignore it, or they could, do something about it. And as I said, this is food for thought. It's not trying to scare you, but here's a whole set of information, probably, that is not covered in other sources, and you choose what you're going to do with it. And I think if you're into meditation, you will know what to do and where to go. Yes.
It's my first day. It's my first day, and we started off nicely with the mantras of Guru Rinpoche and so on, and I felt all nice and light. But now it seems to me that I'm overcome by tsunami. I wonder if there's going to be volcanoes, earthquakes. Why not have hurricanes?
Everything.
And the whole catastrophe taking place.
Well, what we are assured of, at least with the Master's approach, is this is not a total devastation catastrophe scenario. Okay? And what I've said is mainly the coastal areas, of course that's where the major part of the population of the earth lives. But as I said, the information is given to you to make the preparations. Now, if you say, "Oh, the heck with it," you know, why bother with this? I'll just, float with it. That's your choice, and it's a valid choice too, because you can make, you can watch us suffer from on high, or we're struggling with the beginnings of the new age, and come back when it's nice. Yes.
But it's also important to remember while you're preparing, and other people are panicking, they are going to try and grab a hold of you in which way.
They're going to what?
To grab a hold of you in any which way they can.
Well, I think, that's what I was telling you about earlier. Your role as a light bearer and a way shower. The floods won't come at the end of the year, and they'll have a lot of time to prepare, and you can explain to them what you're doing and why you're doing it. And if it hits their soul plan, it'll make sense. If other people will say, "Oh, you're crazy," let them say what they want to say. What can you do?
But that's why you have to stand strong in your truth.
That's right.
because then say-
Don't be swayed by what other people say. There'll be people panicking, believe me. And, there's going to be chaos around you. And that's why you've got to hang on. You've got to keep clearing. That's right. Exactly. You got it. And let me tell you that the hardest thing for people to do is to pack their things and move. I mean, when you think of what a bother that is, it is so difficult for some people to just think of just upping and moving somewhere. And that is a major, it's a very simple thing, but it's a major resistance. Yes. Yes.
I just want to find out, what's your view on alternatives to meditation, which is obviously very good. What's your views on doing, say, ancestor reverence for protection as well as ritual?
Well, protection is needed. As this gentleman was talking about, the attacks that they make that they'll make through black magic or the astral plane on the light bearer. And we have a couple mantras or invocations of protection on our website that I would like to share with you if you can. Go there and read it and understand it. That was put there for this very purpose. Because the more, as I said, the more you get into meditation and your vibrations rise and they note that, you're going to be attacked. But there are ways of protecting yourself against that, and you just rise above it so that they can't touch you anymore.
By more meditation, you can just do more meditation.
Pardon?
You said you can rise above that as they attack you. Do you mean by meditating more?
Yes. By raising your vibrations. We have a free pamphlet for you that Ryan back there is showing you outside that you can take, and it shows you how to get closer to your soul. So it's a whole way of looking at your soul plan and where you're going. How many of you have any? You can have it. And it's on our website also. You can pick it up there. But if you wanted to read on the subway, that's a good thing to do. How many of you know what your soul plan is? You know where you're going. Well, you're way ahead of most of the light workers. This is a major problem. And I think through meditation, especially the meditation that we suggest when you're going into yourself and into your contact, soul contact, that's where your plan is written. And if that comes out clearly, then you're okay. Have you moved to higher ground? Oh! That's good. That's nice and steady. Yeah. I mean, there's some beautiful places in the world that would be great places to go to, if you could.
People aren't actually moving there because this is such a
Which place?
And some people are moving also, and they don't really know why they're moving up to higher ground. But they may get a job there, or something's arranged, they go to school, and they find themselves drifting up higher.
What do you think about the role of Sirius?
Sirius?
Yes.
You mean the star Sirius? That's supposed to be one of the originators of the racial stock that's on the earth today. And I don't know that much about it, but it's sort of like our hierarch planet. And I don't drift that far beyond, not even up to Sirius. All I know is that, that there's that link there. And I concentrate more on the spiritual hierarchy that's within the Earth's realm, from Sanat Kumara down to us. But he's definitely connected with it. So are a lot of masters. Yes.
You say that Saint Germain is the next hierarch of the religion, but in some publications it's called Maitreya, it's called Kumi. Different people are saying different things.
Well, they have different functions, the ones you mentioned. The hierarch is more like the CEO or the administrator of what's going on. Maitreya is more the teacher who's going to show the new teachings of the new age, and Kutumi is behind him, or maybe, I'm not quite sure, maybe the one directing the whole teachings, whereas Maitreya would be the teacher. If, and I have my doubts, Maitreya is indeed an entity like Kutumi. I think it's, and most people disagree with me, but I think of Maitreya as a body of knowledge that is being presented to humanity to be able to adjust to the new age coming through.
He's supposed to be in charge of office of the fund. So
Well, yeah, I know. There's lots of. It wasn't Maitreya who did that. It was Sanat Kumara who overshadowed Jesus. That's one of the mysteries that have been just revealed to us in the last 10 years. So it may be Sanat Kumara for I find the whole concept of Maitreya is very, at this point, very nebulous. It hasn't really come up as a very firm entity of what it is, And I've seen all kinds of renditions of him, from a guy walking around in some neighborhood in London to this huge Buddha in India. I don't know, really. All I know is that I can safely say that what Maitreya represents is the world, the new world teaching of the world religion. That's all I know. Which, by the way, is being slowly given to us, if we can open our eyes to it. Through Kutumi and other, other masters know what they are too. Yes?
Isn't what's happening now just a return to the original way of living that the indigenous cultures have always had?
Well, yes, in a way, but it has to be different. It cannot be the way physically you might, not have 4 or 5 dishwashers at home or stuff like that, and cars and the material stuff. But it is not the same conscious level. The conscious level is going to be much higher than what it was in the 1950s, for example. That's the major difference. And how that higher consciousness leads to human institutions that reflect this higher consciousness as these other institutions like governments and banks and stuff crumble is a big question mark. How are we going to do it? And that's what you guys are supposed to do. This generation of light workers is supposed to filter out all the nasties from this present civilization and carry forth the good and useful ideas that serve humanity, and to materialize them in different forms. And then, they'll get so far, and then the new generation will take over, and the new generation will take over. I suspect before the earth comes to a full balance again, masculine, feminine, plus and minus, and everything else, it's going to take another 50 years. And there's a lot of stuff we've got to clean up. And that, when we get to that balance, then we start really getting into the crux or the center of the new age.
Do you believe, do you have any information whether any of our leaders or potential leaders are going to make a changeover, change it takes into them, makes them more positive,
That's wishful thinking.
are we going to get any light workers wanting to get into that?
Well, there are light workers in the governmental systems, and they're working, and even in the banks also, and they're working, as best they can to subvert or to fix or whatever it is. But the top ones, like say the President of the United States, I was told that he was a light worker, and the choices he has made have shown that it may be a light worker gone afoul, or not. What we were told was not correct. So I don't know. All I know is that I think it's not going the way it was supposed to be going.
I know powerful nations in China, they're looking at
Forget it. Those the communist Chinese leaders are the same throwbacks from the Atlantean days. That's what I'm told. However, I'm told that one of the masters told me, I shall live to see the return of the original Chinese souls that made China. So that may be, I maybe have another 20 years to go. It may happen. I don't know. Yes?
Going back to what you were in the main about the illumination of truth and you speak about the banks and the institutions. What about the concept of religion and religious institutions?
Well, all that stuff, has to be balanced. As you know, all the religions are very masculine. I don't mention any, but they're all very masculine dominated, and it's during this 50-year period I'm talking about.
So we're looking at the structure.
Yeah, it has to. It has to be able to balance, unless they are willing to accept feminine qualities in their. And I'm not talking about gender either. I'm just feminine quality and all the
But with that concept of deconstruction, there is a possibility, which is actually sort of being shown in the world at the moment, where people are feeling fear and instability, that they're turning towards much more extremist concepts, like, for example, in Greece, the Golden Dawn, an extreme right-wing party.
Well, you know,
resistances of
this is normal. Yeah, this is normal that they return to something that is extreme and safer.
But are we looking towards a shift towards something?
No, temporary things. It will eventually balance out too. And the feminine rays that are coming in are forcing a part of. In fact, the vibrations, the higher vibrations I'm talking about of the acceleration are primarily feminine vibrations. And that's what's causing this whole upheaval as it tries to balance. And it'll balance. But we're caught right in the middle of the whole fray.
So even though you say it's not the end of the world, are you supposed to think that the end of
The cycle.
aspects of our environment?
It's the end of the cycle of how we have operated up to now.
What about the computers?
They'll still be around. They'll still be around.
The Great White Brothers of Light, which you write of, I understand that in previous golden ages there's been a rival dark brother of light. But I believe this time around it's not going to be anything of that nature. Is that correct?
It depends on you. Remember, all of us are carrying dark and light sides into this new age because we have been exposed to both sides. And it all depends on this transitional generation, how they set up things once the turmoil is cooled down a little bit. And if we do it right this time, we'll have the experience of the past to tell us that no, we don't make this, we don't do it this way because this is the way selfishness, for example, this is the way the dark forces did it. And you know, the major thing we have to look into to assure that this new civilization doesn't turn the same way, and it could, because the selfishness in mankind is still there, and it'll want to accumulate and steal and this kind of stuff, is to follow cosmic law. And if we can build a new society on as close as possible to cosmic laws, then perhaps we will succeed. Because they sunk Atlantis, and look at where we are today. We're right back where we were. Same old stuff. And somehow those ways managed to survive and flourish. So it could happen again, but let's hope that this flood of light bearers, that's why the strategy is there. The flood of light bearers is to assure or to diminish, say, the possibility of another civilization that's run by the dark forces. That's a good question. It all has to do with spiritual evolution. And in this particular case here, the proof that truth is so strong, it can be exhibited and lived through this kind of body, made out of solid concrete, bones and stuff like that, is what we're going through right now. And it's just a matter of proving that truth can even be expressed through this concrete structure. That's what it is. It's important for our solar system. I don't know whether this lesson is important for other solar systems. And if you know, Earth is sort of in the middle of lower planets, and they have other planets that follow us, Venus and and this is a critical point right here. And if we can get through it, then the evolution of humanity continues step by step into to the higher levels. And that's the reason why Earth is important. It's a pivotal position in the whole evolutionary scheme of things. Well, you guys didn't want to talk about all this nice stuff. Yes?
I don't believe that we need to wait for people to come to us. We can do things by our own action. That is like working in the media, where we see somebody hungry, giving them a few pounds, giving them a meal. If you've got only 20 pounds, give them 20 pounds, give them clothes. There's so much people do today.
That's all what I was talking about, the ratio.
That's right. Eat less and learn to not throw your food when you buy what you need. You throw 30% of our food away. So there's so many things you can do already. People that are healing, you can give healing without asking for money. And people say, oh, but there has to be an exchange of energy.
That I don't believe.
But
I don't mind that. Yeah, if you're able to heal something, and you walk into a situation, and of course, we always say you have to ask permission, but if the person is completely out, your obligation being in that situation is to heal that person. Now, this brings us to another subject of what we call white magic. Have you heard of this? Mm-hmm. White magic, as opposed to black magic. Now, the light bearers today are supposed to raise their vibrations to the point where they become white magicians. White magicians. And that doesn't mean hocus pocus stuff. No. It means that through mental control and through higher understanding of the vibrations that you're dealing with in your own body, okay, etheric and your mental bodies, that you are able to manifest. Okay? If you walk into a camp of refugees and they're starving, you should be able to just put your hands in your pocket like this and manifest the corn, the wheat, everything that they need to eat for this kind of stuff and walk away without having to get praise for it. This is the kind of stuff you're talking about. This is the higher level of manifestation that light bearers are all capable of doing today. Except, oh, I can't do it, I can't do this, but you can. And I don't know whether you've read something called, a book called The Treatise on White Magic. It was written by Alice A. Bailey. Have you ever heard of that? Yeah. I would suggest reading it over and over again until you get the gist of it. The ability that you have through controlling your mental body in order to manifest what is needed. And that's what's going to be called, you're going to be called upon to do things like this. If you're up for it. But if you're not, it's your choice. Yes?
There's a gentleman around the side. I know it as well. There's so many people out there who want to charge for this and that. £1,000 to have this. And now, obviously, a few years ago, a lot of people, I believe, was going on the kind of the right track, but then all these people in these institutions, egos have took over them, and a lot of people now can't touch anything to find the energies. Does that make sense? And
well, I find that one of the things that the New Age movement has sunk into the hands of the dark forces, and all this thing that you talked about, this exchange of energy, that's hocus pocus.
No, that's right. That's what I was trying to
You are freely given the truths.
I've been thrown out.
Teachings.
Because of that, I've gone in and said, you should be charging for healing £250, and they looked at me, all of the people, cut us. You can't get through to them. But they're there.
Can you imagine Jesus walking around and taking fees for what he was doing? And I mean, you have to act in the same manner. The truths have been freely given to you to use and practice. You are not to charge for this stuff.
And that person is pass it on. So it becomes a network all over.
Exactly.
And they said someone's going to start that up again, because obviously with the new age, that was obviously given some time to do it freely, and then obviously people have manipulated it so they can make money from it. What's going to happen now? Because from what I can see, there's less people moving forward than there was 5 years ago.
You know, this is what I was telling you about, how easily this stuff, you know, the fine line between black, I mean the dark side and the light side, how easily that can
But
happen.
in a way then, what you're saying, in a way is, that's politics on both sides, is they're not winning dark forces, but there is less.
Let's say they can play on the selfishness of the human being.
Not a lot of us.
Yeah. And that has got to, as you say, it's, you know, I think the farthest you can go is covering your costs. If you have, you know, you have to rent a place or something like this to be able to administer this stuff, you can cover your costs, but to charge and make a living out of it, it's a no-no. This is something that the masters are quite strict about. That, you know, if you're going to speak about or pass on our teachings, you're not supposed to charge for it.
It is out there massively.
Oh yeah.
It's killing.
But it's getting all mixed up with the environmental and organic this and organic that, and it's, you know, all this proper stuff has been mixed up in all this, and you know, massages. I mean, what? There's no connection between the massage and the soul development. I mean, I believe you may feel good for a while, but that's all. But I don't know how many spas you can walk into. You see this Buddha sitting there. So, what the heck is that thing doing? What's the connection? And they even call these things, you know, they even call these spas by some Sanskrit name that sounds religious or spiritual. It isn't. It's all Maya. It's all. But you see how easy this stuff can seep in, and you see how easily this stuff can be transferred into a new age if you're not really aligned.
Again, for somebody else like myself, it's very frustrating also. As a life work itself, there's not another unit join forces to work together because, you know, they have the problem of, which is you're charging £500 for a Reiki, it's an angelic, you know. So we've got all these other people who have got knowledge and have got the ability to work together to make this work better, but we're not doing it. I mean, what's your take on that? Because as a guy at the scientific large, you must get frustrated that you can't get.
Well, frustration started from day one, but well, what it shows. But when you try to understand what's going on, this money issue is a good way to divide and conquer. This is the thing that's been sowed among the spiritually independent people. That they can earn money, they can do this and that, and then the minute you start that, then you start competing with somebody else who's doing the same service, and before you know it, you've got a split among them. You know, I keep saying that to get over this, we go back to the knowledge of one's soul plan. Now, if you follow your soul plan, and then how many of you have made out plans? Every time you make out a plan, you make a budget for it. So when you were up there in the etheric or mental zone, making up your next incarnation plan, you certainly planned, if you were to follow this soul path, that there would be the adequate resources that would support you to do this thing. Because you still need money to get along here. And that those resources come to you in proportion to how deeply you are following the soul plan. Okay? The more you're off course, the more you're going to have money problems. The more you're on course, the less you'll have money problems. And that's what I think.
But if you're on course, would your soul guide you?
Yes.
As opposed to you having a plan.
No, you wrote that plan. The soul wrote it when you were before you came into incarnation. That's the plan I'm talking about. Not the plan that you devised after you came into incarnation. There's a plan written in your soul, and that's the true path that you have to follow.
So by meditation, you can realign your soul.
Exactly. You align yourself with that, and you get closer and closer to that plan. Now, it's not like a business plan where you get it in one big volume and you can flip through it and decide what you're going to do. It's given to you inch by inch. Your soul says, do this. Why don't you do this? And you can either do it or you don't. And then if you do it, and it's so, they'll try the next inch, and the next inch. And then as they see that through a series of things that's come your way, that you have obeyed your soul plan, and not only that, you can look back and see it's all connected somehow, then you get more and more complicated tasks to do. And then you're on path, you see? But the more you disregard it, when it comes as an intuition to you, the more you're off. But you still feel, what keeps you on track is this yearning inside of you to do something else that you're not doing. You just get no satisfaction. You get to a point where you get no satisfaction by buying a new car, or a BMW, or by getting a higher salary. It just brings nothing to you until this yearning here gets satisfied. And that's the thing that hopefully keeps most light bearers on the path. Because if they're searching here and they're searching there, and finally they latch onto something that gives them some satisfaction, then they can pursue that path, and it keeps giving you the satisfaction you search for. Then you know you're pretty well on your way. And it's usually, it's not like you're going to become a nuclear scientist overnight. It's something that you've been preparing all your life to do, whether you know it or not. It may be a slight deviation from it, but whatever you're supposed to be doing is such that you've already prepared for.
So basically, you need to achieve a higher consciousness before you go and say, okay, I do this for free and I do that for free, and then you make yourself totally needy.
Not really. It is through service that you gain the higher consciousness. Okay? And if you are willing to serve freely, then you'll see that your consciousness goes up, because you're no longer attached to the dollars, the cents, or the pounds. It's through that kind of doing and giving and sharing that your vibrations rise. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, and at the same time it's very subtle, because I know, for example, I have work that I do in the world, so to speak, and there my intention is always a kind of healing intention. If I'm talking to someone who's been arrested because that is the work that I do, then I see this person as getting to another space.
Sure.
So I am paid for the actual seeing the work I do, but the subtle thing of seeing this person, of course that is not. But what I'm saying is that sometimes I see people that in fact are always needing money, simply for survival, because they give this away or they give that away. But so it's a sort of question of realizing, really. I mean, it's to do with consciousness. It's to do with what kind of beliefs you hold and how you actually create certain things in reality. You can't just go there and just because you've got a generous heart I've seen people take great advantage of.
That can happen. You know, people will take advantage, especially if you're in some kind of a established service like astrology. They can take advantage of you. But unfortunately, I have to say, astrologers are some of the most greedy people I have met in terms of, you know, they're and I don't mean to insult you, but to, you know, in order to justify the fees that they charge, where did that knowledge come from? It came from the hierarchy, okay?
Well, do you know? I actually use astrology for my pleasure. Yes,
Oh, that's
I
good.
charge a reasonable amount. The way that I earn my money is in
Okay.
that way.
Well, you know, I think you can start by charging a reasonable amount. Because, you know, I know how much it takes to set up a chart when you're doing, you know, there's a lot of work that goes into that. And that is to be justified by maybe some kind of a fee. But you will, if you are really in service, then you will be put in a different situation where you don't have to charge. But by your services, you're doing a great amount of good for a greater number of people. And therefore, somehow, it'll be arranged for you to have the right resources. This is what I have found in my own practice. That as long as I just do what I have to, do my duty and service, the money just flows in. I don't need to think about money anymore. Then you just give and you keep giving. As Sir Arthur says, you give and you give until you must give. You just can't stop.
I think what it is about the mind, body, spirit people, it's the exhaustion of charging. I think it's okay to live and survive, but some of the fees they're charging, it's just £500
Do they really charge £500 for a Reiki treatment?
Yeah, but I mean, the fact is, talking about having a special level of consciousness. As the level of consciousness rises, you don't go and see those people
Yes? You have a question? Well, you know, that's the kind of giving without charging. That's necessary. You got to do it.
I think what we're trying to say is that many people stuck in, it's not the ones in there at the top of the car. It's the ones who are stuck in
The one with the spots and the massage therapy.
Yeah, you know, that's what we're trying to do. They're being manipulated, they're being, you know, and they want to be helped.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we're exhausted this.
Okay.
So just to move on, you know the fourth dimension, excuse my ignorance, but does it relate to Earth or just the universe?
The whole universe, but you know, everything. Well, no, I'd say let's just keep within our solar system, okay? Because I don't go beyond that. It's just too much for my little puny brain. But to Earth, yes, because I think on the Earth, because Earth has got probably, as I mentioned before, the most concrete third dimension you could find. Okay? So that struggle out of it into the fourth dimension is a unique, I would guess it's a unique problem of us Earthlings. Yes?
I would like to ask you regarding about the challenges that we face for this year and the future, where they mention about the increase of the solar activity and also how that's going to affect the Earth. when they mention about some period of darkness that will affect the planet. And I don't know if you have any comments on how important this effect is
You
going
mean
to
the sun's actions?
Yes, because it said that it's going to be a consequence on some kind of like solar
And the
storm.
source of this information is NASA, right?
Well, it's not only NASA, but they see there is something to do with also with the energy that is coming from the center of the galaxy.
You see, all these things I have great suspicions about. Why this stuff is being broadcast out like this, and you can do nothing about it. Whether this is not just another fear tactic, what can you do about the sun erupting this and that? You just sit there and watch it, if it is really happening. And I have a big question mark, especially since I know that a lot of this information is coming from NASA, which is, the U.S. government. Not that I'm against the U.S. government, but this kind of information. Why are they broadcasting this out to everybody? That's my big question. You got enough things to be afraid of here and to deal with on the Earth as the Earth rumbles into a new dimension without worrying about the sun. Believe me, the sun's going to be there for a long time. It's going to be erupting and doing all this stuff. But if you really go into the esoteric or occult dimension of things to understand the sun, they say in the occult mysteries that it is not fire that's being directed to you, the heat, rather. It is a sound wave. That these are not sun rays, but they're sound waves. As they approach the Earth, they become heat. Now, if I take that into consideration, I say, what are these eruptions doing? And also, the other occult truth about the sun itself is that it is a reflection of another sun. It is not in and of itself the generator of heat. It's just reflecting the great sun that's supposed to be behind Jupiter. And that's what you're getting this way. So, when I take into consideration those two occult facts, as I say, and of course most scientists would disagree with me and think I'm completely nuts, but I don't care. It throws some doubt into this kind of relationship between the eruptions on the sun and the tsunami and all this kind of stuff. And if I were you, I'd just discount it and go to sleep. Have a nice night's sleep. Yes.
I have another question. You talk about us moving towards the fourth dimension. I've read and we're actually
Does that make any sense to you? We're in the third dimension. What happened to the fourth?
you're going via the fourth, I guess. I don't know.
You don't bypass. It's not that easy. Believe me.
Okay, so we go forward.
Of course. Well, I don't know whether you read Volume 2, but I explained this Manvantara that we go through. And we're now in what they call the fourth round, which is like a pie shape. And Earth has to go through its evolution during that round. It's millions of years. And it's only at the end of that fourth round that we reach the level of an etheric being. And then we keep going forward. I mean, you'll be a mental being after that. And then, there's still a long way to go in our evolutionary process. And so that's why we're not going to end all this, jump off the ship at the end of this year. That doesn't make sense.
Does it make sense to worry that it's more about the sound and the sound that becomes heat?
Well, that's all I know. That it is emitting sound, which is the basis of all creation in the whole universe. You are sound. You are sound also. Yeah, so it goes there and apparently hits the atmosphere of the Earth, and that's when it becomes heat, the friction. Did you know what person means? The word person. Per sonari, which means to make noise, to make sound. That's what you are. That's what you are. That's what you are. A sound that's into some global, some mixture of energy that forms into a human body. That's the sound, that the word, you know. That's right. And then that's another question that could go on forever. But who makes the sound? It would be, I would tell you, it is the law of nature. Some law of nature. This is called the ancient wisdom. Ancient wisdom. Exactly. That's behind, that was supposed to be behind all religions, but somehow we came out of it. There are all these bastardized theories, but basically it's that. It's ancient wisdom. Anna?
Everything you said today is very interesting. A lot of it I heard, a lot I haven't. And I'm going to take it with a salt as things I'm brought up to do. But can I ask why? Why are you telling us this? Do you feel you're a prophet, or?
This was what I was told I would be doing. And what I'm doing is enunciating for the Master Saint Germain some ideas to throw up and to give to you to think about and how to act. That's all it is. Information. And you know, of course, you have to believe in a spiritual hierarchy, which is what we believe in. And you have to believe that there's a core of masters who are superior human beings that have evolved beyond the physical, and that there's a whole hierarchy that goes of these more and more superior beings up to the planetary logos, and then further on to the solar logos, and that there's a whole line of this, and this is the first level. So we get this information from the masters, that giving it to us, or to you, the light bearers, actually, because you are all connected to these masters, because you're a special bunch of people, souls, that is. Yes. Did you have a question? No.
No. What I would like to ask you is, until now, yes, you have been talking to us and to on an individual basis to all of us how we can be more conscious of the spiritual life and how we can wake up in the spiritual life and physical life too in our planet, and how we can have more wisdom in ourselves to deal with the changes that are coming in our planet and in our spiritual life and the planet too. And
Catch that on a recording. It's a perfect summary. No, go ahead.
No, and then my question, okay, until now we have been receiving this message, and I think that all of us, we are conscious of the responsibility that we have personally with our planet and with the universe. Now, I would like that you please explain to us or give to us some ideas how we are going to share or to cooperate more with the other humankind, because in majority, all the humankind are in darkness. They don't have the wisdom that we are getting at the moment. God know that we are blessed with that, these spiritual forces. And then how I would like to see or to hear from you how all of us, not only here in London with all of us here, but all around the planet where we are going to wake up more and to share this wisdom with the rest of the humankind, please.
Okay, that's a good question. Now, here you are, a whole bunch of individuals sitting in this room. Some of you have never seen each other, you don't know each other. But somehow, you are all linked in your soul to each other. As we call it, the group of New World servers and light bearers, etc. The next step that must be taken, hopefully, is that you start grouping together. Getting together and forming some sort of a group in London that can define actions that you want to do. Now, you know, this has been one of the difficult parts of, believe it or not, of the light bearer strategy, is to get the light bearers to work together. Everybody's got their own agenda, they want to do this and that. But we will see. Most of the time, after a lecture like this, a sort of a nucleus of people get together. And they're all over the world. And what I do, my my strategy is to use Skype, since I can't travel to all these places all the time. And we have these little Skype groups that talk about things and discuss all of the things that are in people's minds. And then, you know, hopefully the group consolidates. Now, we have a well-consolidated group in the Philippines. For some reason, I don't know why. It's just incredible. It's just a... And of course, that group has moved into more solid things because being a whole network of islands, you know, they were quite... I didn't have to tell them about the floods. They already knew it from here. And so they got together, built a retreat, and now service as many people as wants their service. And what it is they have what we have developed is called a healing pavilion. We have 16 people that are seated at each cardinal point, and in the middle is a healing center. And they concentrate these healing powers that come from, well, we think it comes from Sanat Kumara. And it's sort of a blue healing thing, and anybody who needs a healing is invited to come. And see, our minds of people now walking through this and receiving healing. That's the kind of service that light workers are supposed to do. You could do the same thing here, if ever you got to the point. And there's no charge to it, and they can come as often as they want until the problem is healed. And you know, we've had some incredible healings there. Cancer, especially, a lot of cancer going on. People have been healed of the cancer. You know, from one MRI to the other, you can see a difference, such a big difference. So this is the kind of work that light bearers should be getting into. And of course, you know, it took this group quite a while to get together, but they do now work together as a whole. And I should hope that something happens in every place that we get light workers together like this, that there's some kind of a thing that kind of generates out of the whole grouping right here. And that something like that can happen. And of course, we're always on the sidelines, and we can always, you know, do the technical assistance on this kind of stuff. And teach you the mysteries, as well as teach you the secrets of some of this telepathic healing that we conduct.
Going back to survival part, did you prepare yourself somehow for these next 5 years?
What I'm doing?
Yeah, what exactly? Maybe you have a plan. Maybe you're going to.
Well,
go
we've already have stores of food that will carry us for maybe a year. But we also, when I get back to Canada, we're also looking at purchasing a farm, so that we will have enough, for the members and anybody else who needs it. But we are, and I should say that we moved away from the coastal areas.
So you're going to be somewhere up the hill?
We are in the mountains. We are now in the Canadian Rockies.
Oh, right.
Nobody will hit us. And we moved there 3-4 years ago and established the headquarters of the Sanctus Germanus Foundation there. And it's what I'm being told is it's safe up there. So from there we are broadcasting our message.
Do you accept any peoples coming in there?
Slowly, as I said, moving happen. This is something I discovered. That people don't want to move. They agree with everything, and when you have to load everything in boxes and put it in a moving van.
I think what we've been is where to move to.
Oh.
Spiritual hierarchies are so profound.
The region.
But moving is so difficult. We've looked into Canada and the
Carpathian Mountains.
The Carpathian Mountains, we're talking about Poland. And
Romania.
They're quite unfriendly.
Land of fire.
Well, move up then. Move up to higher places. In England, I'm sure there are many places there.
Going down with France. Where in Europe is known to be?
Unfortunately, in Luxembourg, it's higher. In Luxembourg, Switzerland, the Pyrenees, Greece is quite high. I mean, there are all kinds of places you can go to. And I'm sure anything is.
Well, the economies in Europe as they are, I mean,
Well, you see, that's why I told you it's difficult. But you have to get to the point where you just do it. And I know 2 ladies that just, sold everything and got into a trailer. And I think they've established now in the Carpathian Mountains. Or, I think it's the Pyrenees now, because they didn't like the Carpathian Mountains. Language problem, and stuff like that. But there are places you should go to if you really think hard. Well, you create your own jobs. I mean, if you're waiting for a job to move, you'll never move. Yeah. In fact, what we say, if you don't take the first step and move, you'll never get a job. But once you move, then you'll find something. That's the thing I was telling you about. That 1 inch. When you do that, then the next step comes, and then the next step comes, and then it just follows in line with your soul plan. Yes?
So I'm just a little bit confused because you talked about earlier how, as light bearers, it's the light bearer's duty to protect or share knowledge with others. But it almost seems counterproductive to be advising such people to vacate these remote, high landed areas away from civilization, where the most help people can do is in highly density populated areas such as...
Well, I'm sure you have high density areas that are in high elevated places. Many places in the
people
world
need help most would be people in these areas that have been affected most, as in London and places such as that.
Well, you're not going to stop the floods from hitting London, okay? So the first thing is that people who are aware of this have to move. And if they don't move, then they just make that choice and they just go with the floods. What's wrong with that?
I thought our duty was to help people.
That you're helping
and
them.
as helping people, surely the greatest thing is to help as many people as you can. But surely you'd be helping a lot more people if you stayed much more highly densely populated areas such as.
I agree. I agree. Yeah.
Mountainous areas where the population is a lot more stretched.
60 meters in height, don't you? That's the problem. The problem is you don't want to move.
Not necessarily.
I tell you,
I'm wondering.
when you get to the point where you say, okay, I've got to move, and I believe this whole thing about flooding, and you get yourself to do it, that's when all the excuses come out.
They probably say you're running away.
What are you going to help them with if they're being flooded? Well, a few pumps. Well, in reality, no. It's not that important. It's more than that. It is more aligned to what your soul plan is telling you to do, and that you have to maybe move up there to be of more help. I don't know. Maybe you have a skill. Maybe you can keep the satellites going, or whatever it is. I don't know. But there's a reason, for your moving. Now, one thing the spiritual hierarchy doesn't do is coddle people. Oh, you poor thing, you have to move, and this thing, and blah, 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 blah. You can go on and on and on and on and on, and figure out every excuse in the book not to do what you're supposed to do. And they just say, fine, you just take your time while the floods come. But, it's coddling at this stage. It's nothing you can do about some of these things that are going to happen. It doesn't make and it doesn't do any good. In fact, I think some real harsh love is you got to shake people out of their jolt them out of their stupor is probably the best love you can give anybody. Yes.
I think we can joke ourselves because we're getting these messages all the time and we're ignoring them.
That's
I
right.
think that the understanding is that
That's
as the
right.
conscious rises, you realise that the cleansing that's happening, you can't help that. The people that are going to go are supposed to.
Well, I mean, you would want to save your body or save this incarnation from drowning because you have a reason to do it. There's a purpose in it. That's what I keep going back to the soul plan. Now, if you don't have a reason for doing it, just go with the waves and come back when it's in better condition down here. That's what I would like to do. That's right. Yeah, that could be it too. Yeah. That's right. Sure, I believe that too. You may be, you may have to do the wayshore comforter while the waves are laughing. But that may be your sacrifice of your incarnation. That may be what your soul plan called for. And you've taught just up to that point what you need to do. Need to have taught.
Truly at that higher level of consciousness, we would need to be questioning whether
That's right. That's right. You got to take somebody like Mother Teresa as an example. You just get down there, you bury your nose in there, and you just do what you have to do, day by day by day by day by day, but in the right direction. And this body is really, it's just it's a vehicle to do what you have your soul has to do. I've moved 47 times.
The hardest, I think the hardest was leaving London because I lived here all my life. Now where I live, and I have very few people. It's kind of my question basically is I've got traumas down there, and it's kind of getting to the point where I'm getting quite disheartened and very frustrated, and it's kind of dealing with those things really, because I'm not working. I gave up my job because the wrong place for me to be, and not a nice place to be, because I was being asked to do my thing. And nothing's kind of taking its place. And, it's kind of wondering how you kind of deal with it when you sort of done anything. But
Well, you know what you have to do is you have to reach a point of complete detachment from expectations of what's going to happen to you. Oh, I think I want this job. I think I want this. If you really search yourself, you'll see you have certain things, preconceived ideas, detach from it. But I can also promise you, it'll be easier at the end of the year to do something like this because it is a new dawning. A new dawning is happening, and these kind of things shouldn't, hopefully, shouldn't stop the light workers from achieving financial security. This is a deep wish of everybody that they don't have to worry about money, that they can move on. But hopefully that will come about. This is one of the great promises of Saint Germain's message. He wants me to get over to you that there is something coming up, that there is a new dawning, a new birth, a rebirth of your incarnation. So think in that line, make that list of things, and have clear ideas of what you sort of want to realize. It helps, but what can you really be sure what's going in? I think it's one of the masters said, it's not what you take in, it's what comes out that's more important. And I think, to be sure, fasting is a good practice. Do it once a week, or fast in the morning, to make sure that your body void all that stuff out. And that's one of the things. The cleansing of your body makes things much clearer. Yes.
When I want to invoke for someone, I invoke for Christ or Buddha or Muhammad, all these enlightened beings. Who is Saint Germain? Excuse my ignorance, but I've never heard of him.
Well, Saint Germain is a master. Okay, he's an advanced human being that has whose work has affected the world quite profoundly, and he is unknown to you. I don't know why, but there's some very good books if you want to read it by. It's called Le Comte de Saint-Germain, and it's written by, what is her? Isabel Cooper Oakley. Yeah.
Is he still alive, or?
Well, yeah, of course, they're all alive, but they're.
Well, I know,
but he comes
as a human form.
He can assume human form if he needs to communicate with you. I've seen him in a couple of human forms, but it's actually a superior human being, let's say, that has had enough experience on earth to guide us through this period. Now, Jesus and Muhammad and Buddha, all these are part of the spiritual hierarchy that have come down to enlighten people from time to time. I think this is, Saint Germain is not sort of a teacher in that way. He's more like an administrator of this great transition we're going through now. Although he does have some profound teachings to give. In fact, have you heard of the I Am movement? I Am, that's his teaching. And that came through in the 1930s from his teaching of God God. Yes? No? Yeah. What? Yeah, he came up with this idea of the violet flame, although he says it's not his idea. He told me that it's actually been around for a while, but everybody associates him with it. But he, for protection. Yes.
Well, after we go through this transition period, how do you maintain the world population between 15 to 22 days?
More.
More than that?
wars and the floods. Yeah. No, what do you mean harvesting the soul?
What I've read is that it's like possibly when they're taken, the lesser souls are going to be taken to another planet.
Oh yeah, they'll go to the vibrations where they belong to. There's a lot of souls on this earth today that don't belong here. But what it does say, is that when all this, these earth changes have happened, they want you all alive. They don't want you dead. What good is a dead light bearer? You're the ones that are supposed to build the new society, okay? So, whatever it is, that's why they put you here. And as I said, this particular group here and the rest of your age group are the ones that have to filter out all the crap that was in the other civilization and bring in to the new all that worked and was beneficial